Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Korea Dominion podcast with their host, Darklaw Dominion. Very excited. Episode 8 in our mental health series, the Korean Dominion series. Got Miss Shamika Williams out of Memphis, Tennessee, here to share her story. And so I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, Shamika.
Hi, my name is Williams. I am a Flint native, born and raised in Flint, and then moved into Tennessee later life in my life about 2015. So I've been residing here ever since then. A little bit about me is I have 4 children, 18, 14, 9, and 8. My oldest has already graduated high school. She was an early graduate. With me, I just walked across the age with my bachelor's degree from University of Memphis on May 4th. I'm a manager for Old Navy. I have a lingerie business called Diamondix of Dimplez. It is a lingerie store, and I have one for online as well. And I also have a nonprofit called Let Love Lead, which caters to domestic violence, women, children, and men.
Awesome. And so appreciate you coming on the show, Shamika. So we got a very exciting episode, episode 8 for you guys here today. We're going to focus mostly on the mental health and domestic violence side of issues. And so I'm appreciative of Shamika coming on here to tell her story and share some light on her expertise within the domestic violence mental health arena. And so first thing I want to say to our guests out there, like I say every episode, as you're listening through this episode here, I want you to take everything with a grain of salt, if you will. I want every guest to kind of reflect on your life and your trial tribulations, on what you're doing to become the best version of yourself. Like I said, I hope something that is said here today resonates with you, and you can kind of glean and apply to your daily life and your daily aptitudes, if you will. And so, like I said, some things, not everything that's said here today might resonate with you, but I encourage every guest that is viewing and listening and going to tune in to maybe it's not you, maybe it's a family member of yours, maybe it's your children, maybe it's your coworkers, your neighbors, friends, school teachers, etc. It may not directly affect you, but you might have somebody in your life that could be affected by mental health or domestic violence. So, with that being said, Shamika, I'll let you go ahead and kind of first let's start on how you got into the nonprofit space and kind of go through your journey there.
For my nonprofit, I had been in 4 DV relationships. 2 of them out of the 4 weren't really relationships. The very first one was my children's dad. Well, that's not the first one, that's the third one. Was my the 2 smaller children's dad. That's how I ended up here in Tennessee, fleeing from domestic violence on that side. And then the final one was when my mom passed. I got married for 2 months, didn't know the person, didn't know who he was, and he beat me every day. So when I finally got out of that, I said, hey, it's time for me to go back. Because I know if I can't get out of it, no one really listened to me, but there's a chance that someone who's dealing with what I'm dealing with can also possibly still walk away with their lives too. So now I just tend to go back and I just speak to people about domestic, even the children. If someone sees something, hears something, just let it be known. It's okay to speak out instead of being quiet. If you need to escape, it's okay. Reach out to someone that you really trust, and it can go from there. I just feel like everybody deserves their life. I don't feel like no one deserves his life to be taken from the hands of someone else because out of jealousy or they just don't want them living. So that's how I end up getting back into the nonprofit, so I can help someone else. So I can help someone else's children. So I can help someone else's son, mother, or daughter. A lot of people don't realize that little boys and men also end up in domestic relationship as well. And they tend to overlook that. but people tend to shine a light on a lot of females and not the male side of it. So I just give back to both genders and let them know, hey, there is a chance that you still can live your life like you're supposed to be and happy without the abuse mentally, physically, or emotionally, or verbal for that matter. So abuse is abuse to me.
Awesome, awesome. I definitely appreciate you like walking through that. And again, there is multiple forms of abuse. It's not just I want to also let the viewers know, everybody's story is your story, whether it be just because, some people might have got physically harmed, but if you were verbally, emotionally, mentally abused, that's still the same weight. There is no, when it comes to trauma and surviving domestic violence and mental health, there is no um, hierarchy of pain or hierarchy of abuse. Everybody's abuse matters, everybody's story matters. And so I just want every viewer to um, I just want to let every viewer know that your story matters, whether you think it's, oh, I just got, cussed out, or I just got ridiculed about my weight or about my looks, that's still abuse. Causing harm to anybody that is not wanted is abuse. And so I just want every viewer to reconcile with that and let them know that you are able to seek higher counsel, and you do deserve, like you said, Shamika, to live your life to the fullest and how you're attended to. And so, with that being said, why don't you walk us through, kind of your walk with domestic violence and how it kind of started and how you're able to overcome?
Mine started as a high school student. That's how mine started. Everyone has that. I'm not gonna say everybody, but you know how you have your high school sweetheart. Some of us do, some of us didn't. That's how mine started. My dad loved that little boy, but I saw the true colors when my dad wouldn't be around. He would punch me in my eye and then laugh about it. Then it became to where I was getting bruised. I got burnt with cigarette, got choked with cellular phone cords, pushed downstairs, pretty much anything that you can think of physically was done to me. And I don't wish that on nobody. How I ended up getting away from him, he went to prison for robbing an old lady. He robbed the old lady in the wintertime. He ended up getting caught because they trailed the footprints. He drove the lady from literally Rite Aid's parking lot from the front door to her car. So that's how I ended up to get away from him. I had already had my first daughter. It's not with him. Um, then I met someone else. I met my middle daughter's dad. There was no sign there. We were in a full relationship. He had already had two children from into the relationship. I had one. We were fine the first 2.5, maybe 3 years. And then when I got pregnant with his daughter, things changed. Um, he wanted me to get rid of the baby, but I didn't want to. So at that time I didn't want anything. Um, I really still don't now. But everybody's situation is different when it comes to that, so I can't say much or speak on that situation there. Um, with him, he started when I got pregnant with her. He would push me down the stairs, trying to make me lose the baby. She was actually a preterm birth. She was my second. Choked me with phone for the chargers. Literally tried to drag me up the stairs, dragging me by my neck. Look at him. I ended up getting away from him. I don't know how many times the police at my house was called just for him, to the point that they stopped coming. Make a phone call, they would never show up. I got away from him. And ended up getting with the two smaller ones today. Me and him was probably together maybe like 4 or 5 months, living for the relationship. Um his was more so financially abused, mental, verbally as in the beginning. And then after I had his daughter, his proceeded to physical. He tried to run us over, me and my children, including his daughter. He ran us off of the highway and he ran us into a ditch. That one there, I was working for Target at the time. I had been with Target. I just really recently left Target. I was with Target for 14 years. The store manager that I originally had there, she knew everything. And I had no clue she knew. So I had never talked to her about anything that was going on. And one day I had to walk to work, and it was probably like 7, 8 hour walks. Driving it was probably like 45 because I didn't work in the inner city. Um, and she waited for me and she asked me, she said, "What's wrong? How did you get to work?" I said, "Oh, mom and daddy dropped me off." She said, "No, they didn't because they were always looking for you." And then she finally called me into the office and she said, "Just sit down." And she said, "What's wrong?" And I burst into tears. And she said, "Yeah, I already knew what was going on. We were just waiting for you to say something." And she told me, she said, "I really want you to live." She said, "I don't want anything to happen to you." She said, "You are the sweetest person I've ever met." She said, "But I have a choice for you." She said, "It's either you're going to live or you're going to die. Which one do you want?" I said, "I'd rather live." She gave me two choices. She said, "Well, you're going to be gone within 24 hours. We have a position for you in another state." The two states were Denver, Colorado, and Memphis, Tennessee. She said, "Which one do you prefer?" She said, "I need to know like ASAP so I can get your transfer in so you can get gone." It took me about 20 minutes to decide where I wanted to go. I mean, I already living in Michigan, so I already cold. No, every day. And had never been to Memphis, never been to Tennessee, had never been outside besides like my sister stays around me. And I was like, you know what, I'll go with Memphis. So then maybe I can try some warm weather, different scenery, I'd be okay and I'd be a little far. Me and my kids were gone with 24 hours. We were gone literally to the clothes on our bed and $200. We stretched that $200 about 2.5 weeks. And they placed us inside a shelter. So I was good up until my mama passed. My mom passed in 2020. I got married in December 2020. I got divorced February 2020. I was trying to fill the hole of losing my mom because I felt like my dad didn't understand. Even though he had already been with my mom for 47 years and he lost my mom. But I was trying to fill that hole. I didn't know anything about that man. And when I say I didn't know nothing, didn't know nothing. He beat me before the funeral. He beat me after the funeral. See how my hair is now? My hair has came back the end of 2021. He would pull my hair, drag me around. I'll have patches, literally patches of hair out of my head in his hand. And that kind of hurt. My dad didn't do anything about it. Nobody. And I didn't know how to deal with that. Then I found out that he was on drugs. He was snorting. I didn't know. One of my cousins was like, "Well, you should know someone on drugs." I mean, Caesar, I said, "How am I supposed to know when I don't need them?" She was like, "But you grew up." I didn't grow up with y'all. I'm a younger age. I think my cousins, all of my older cousins are like late 40s by turn 50, mid 50s. And then my sisters are late 40s. Then you got little old me at the bottom. So like I don't know the signs or symptoms someone who does drugs. I can't tell you. I don't know. How I ended up getting away from him. I was going to work one day. I was driving. He was on the passenger side. And he just kept telling me I had to get rid of my friends. I said, "I'm not going to do that." And he said, "You're going to get rid of them or else." I said, "Still not going to do that." He didn't know anything about the cities. He's originally from Birmingham, Alabama. But he followed me. He would always tell me, "Well, when you die, I'm going to take everything from you." Thinking that just because we were married, he was entitled. So whatever I had. I got away from him when he punched me the day we were going to work. I was driving. I was able to steer my car on the grass. And I finally parked and I got out and I started walking. I started walking backwards away from my car. And he was like, "So you gonna leave your car, leave it here, and I don't know where I'm going?" I didn't say anything. I didn't speak. I just kept walking. So he finally got out the car and he walked the opposite direction of me. So when he was walking out the direction of me, I kept keeping him so I can see him. When he got as far as away where I felt like I can run and he couldn't get me, that's exactly what I did. And I didn't look back. Called my daddy and said, "Daddy, I gotta go back home. Yeah, I think my time up here with you is over. That I take you back in and he gonna stop this at the bosom of my mom. And I can go back and continue my life." I said, "But if I stay here, I'm going to die." And I left. I had came home for like 8 months after my mom passed my dad because I didn't want to lose him. So I kind of came back and I had to leave. And then I started getting more back into the things that I like to do and helping people. That was my passion. And I just always see me getting out of my situation that I can help students. Theirs might be worse than mine. Theirs might be simpler than mine, where they can get the help they needed. Me personally, I never went to no one to get help. I tried to get out of mine on my own before it came down to the situation of me dying. Because I'm not really supposed to be walking. I know I'm supposed to be dead. I'm very grateful for still walking and not having my life taken by some and leaving my kids. That's kind of pushed through on it.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing your story. A lot to unpack there. First things I want to do is start off earlier on in your testimony. You mentioned the financial abuse of things. And that's one thing that what we call about escalators. I think a lot of not necessarily just women, but men and women in relationships, we have to kind of watch out for the early signs of domestic violence or domestic abuse. And so, can you just real quick detail, what that financial abuse entails? Because I feel like a lot of couples, whether it be men or women, because I see it both ways, you might have where the woman is paying all the bills or letting the man drive the car around, and then vice versa. You might have the man's the breadwinner and kind of the woman's like the housewife or at home spending the money, but that could still lead to abuse. So can you kind of, break down, what that entailed in your situation?
He would always take my money. He would always fill my purse, take my debit cards. I would change a pen. He would run his credit. I had got to the point where I didn't even keep the forms of bills in my purse because he will always take it. He said my money was not my money, it was his money. He was gonna do what he needed to do with it. He wasn't paying anything. The money that he had, he kept it. And I was in debt. So I was in debt a lot. Buying shoes, expensive clothes, not making sure the house was taken care of. Just pretty much ripping me to shreds. Where I gotta try to bounce myself back and figure out how I'm gonna pay this bill and pay that bill. And when you ask questions, it's like, well, what you gonna do? Because I'm not gonna do it. It's on you, or it's your house and it's in your name, it's your car. My car will break down and I will be left to try to figure out a way to fix it or do everything that I needed to do. So I was pretty much being taken advantage of. Um, Knew it but didn't say anything about it because you wanted to keep that person, so you just kind of did what you needed to do to make sure that person didn't walk away.
Oh, awesome. And I appreciate you going through on that because, um, like I said, a lot of people, they don't really recognize that as abuse. And, that's just not okay to, like I said, take someone's money, just because you're married or just because, you're together. Everybody has to bring something to the table. And so, I just definitely agree that, if you work hard for your things, everything should be kind of coming together for the betterment of the household. And so, what I've kind of heard throughout your testimony is one, different escalators, but definitely, I kind of want you to go through. I know you said you got with him or got married like a couple months after your mom had passed. I believe you said like 2, 3 months after your mom had passed. And so can you kind of go through what, trying to fill that void kind of looks like? Because I know just in my own personal experience as well, losing grandparents or just losing somebody close, you kind of do look for that void, or even it doesn't necessarily have to be a family member passing. It could also be, just having an absent family member, so if you're viewing the episode here, you might have not had some people might have not had their mom or dad in their life at all, and so just have been living their life trying to fill that void. And so you got to go through, what led you, what was going through your mind at that time, and then how did you, what are some tips you can give individuals on overcoming that?
What was going through my mind was trying to make myself happy after losing my mom. Like, I was just trying to find someone to fill that spot to love me like my mom. At least I thought. It wasn't. It didn't turn out like that way. I will say, before someone thinks on doing certain things to fill void, take some time to yourself to heal, and to process, and just think, write, or do something, because you'll find yourself in bad situations every time. Like I said, I didn't. I just was in a rush to try to fill that spot, feeling my mom and losing her. And I'm like, nobody's gonna love me like my mom. Like, I gotta find somebody that's gonna love me just like my mom. And I thought me getting married, having a spouse, was gonna be the same as my mama. And it didn't turn out like that. It was the opposite way, because that person knew that I was vulnerable and took advantage and got me hurting and grieving from losing my mom. Just pretty much did anything and everything that they could, because they knew that I didn't want them to leave, because I was still but just stopping and thinking. Don't always act off emotions, because if you act off emotions, most of the time you're gonna end up in a bad spot. You're gonna regret something. You keep ending up and thinking off of emotions and feeling, hey, you know, I'm emotional now, I'm crying now. I have to find any and everything to ease that pain. That goes as far as people who abuse substance and alcohol the same way. They literally try to fill that spot with drinking or smoking or whatever type of drugs they're using, just to feel happy. And 9 times out of 10, you're only probably going to be happy for probably about like 10 minutes. Once that alcohol, that high, anything comes down, reality kicks back in. And it's like, what world have I done? And that was me. Like, when I came back, I probably started leaving, and then it bounced back. But I'm like, when I came to terms that my mama was really truly gone, and I woke up, I said, what have I done? I can't live like this. Is not, I'm pretty sure this is not what my mama wants. And I was like, I gotta straighten up. I just can't find anybody just to fill that void of my mom. My mom is gone, but her flesh, her spirit, I'm gonna always still have. So, like I said, when I came to terms when my mom was completely gone and she wasn't coming back, I was looking and thinking and saying, looking at this person, like, I don't even know who you are. You made yourself a person that you really wasn't, because you knew that I was grieving. And it just didn't look good. It didn't look good for me, and it didn't look good for my kids. And I knew something was wrong after that, because my kids never saw that person. They would never speak. They didn't say hi. They didn't want to be in the same house with that person. I knew to wake up then, because my kid gonna come first. And about that, I was just thinking of filling that hole. And when I started seeing my kids wasn't talking, dealing, didn't want to be around, being disrespectful, and my kids are never disrespectful to no one, but they saw that person mistreated me, and I knew what I had to do, and it wasn't stay. It was trying to find everything and every way that I had to get away, and it just kept getting violent and more violent and more violent. The more I tried to push away, I just simply don't think off emotions that fast. Don't have a quick reaction. Just kind of, calm first. Come back to your norm, and then make your decision.
Some awesomeness. So, you said a lot of good key points there. One of the main things is that, the enemy always tries to prey when you're at your weakest moments, or when you're down, or when you're grieving, or when you're to going through something. Like I said, I want all the viewers and listeners to really reflect on your own life And like I said, maybe it's not you personally, but maybe it's your parents or somebody in your, your best friend or like I said, coworker, etc. Um, think about a time where maybe you were grieving or maybe you had a bad day or maybe you were going through anxiety, depression, etc. And, you could have met a guy or a gal and, try to fill that void. And so again, like you were saying, I just want to encourage all the viewers to, focus on healing yourself first. That's a mistake I've made in my past, just through grieving different situations and past relationships is I do want to encourage the viewers that, when it comes to just the household, if you're unhappy, regardless if you move, until you change and get happy for yourself and change your ways and focus on your happiness, you're always going to be unhappy. If you just focus on materialistic things and the actual physical places, you're going to be unhappy. And so there might be a viewer on there that maybe you're in a relationship or a domestic violence situation where maybe the guy has the breadwinner, and he's spending all the money on, your clothes, your lifestyle. Maybe he's buying you new shoes, buying you cars, buying you jewelry, etc. But if you're not truly happy with that person, then you're going to continue to be unhappy in a relationship regardless of materialistic things. And another thing you said, I want the viewers to hope you guys honed in on that. She said her children, again, she has 4 children, and she said her children reacted negatively to that person. And so that's a really good talking point, because whether it's children, other family members, etc., you always want to be aware of your surroundings and aware of what you're watching. And so obviously you love your children, and your children, and that's why I encourage all parents to get to know your children, talk to your children. So when you're in certain situations, um, you can kind of glean from their experience and kind of, you always know your facial expressions of your children, when your children are sad, when your children are uncomfortable. And so I just, applaud you for being able to recognize, oh, wait a minute, my youngest or, my children don't act like this around other people. Maybe there's something in their spirit that they're seeing that one thing about kids, like I said, I'm a single father of twin boys as well. Kids can see, they sense things that you may be blinded to. And so, um, and that's more of like also not just a physical level, but just on a spiritual and like emotional level. Children can sense things that you might be unaware of or might be kind of blinded by or blocking out. And, I just commend you as well as your kids for being able to notice that behavior and notice that disconnect and say, wait a minute, mom, this guy's not good for us or not good for you. And so I just appreciate you being able to acknowledge that. And then also on the other side of what you were saying is you just want to make sure that um, you have everybody should have a certain breaking point or mesh point. I just want to encourage the viewers to, you know, have your standards and have your morals and values. One great thing you said is that once you came to the reality of knowing your mother was gone in the flesh, but not in the spirit, you also acknowledged that, this isn't how your mother wanted you to live. And so I just believe if you're viewing, everybody should have um, that kind of cognizant mindset of, hey, enough is enough, or everybody should, and hopefully, and to your credit, and thank God that it doesn't lead to death or severe harm before you get to that breaking point. And so I just commend you for setting that standard or setting that tone of, hey, if this, if one more thing happens, or hey, you hit me one more time, this is the final straw, or this is they always say like the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, hey, this guy's not gonna, acknowledge this guy's not gonna change. My kids are acknowledging that now it's time for me to put my foot down and say, all right, y'all, we out. And so Again, if you're viewing, I want you to look in your own life and look at your own, reflect on your own life and have that same standard as well. We all call it having, safe people, or having that safe place of knowing, like, hey, having that acknowledgement and awareness of, hey, this isn't going to change. So I need to, in order to better my life, and whether you have kids or not, to become a better, best version of yourself, this is not for me. It's time for me to go. And so, with that being said, what are some, different goal or different tips that you can give the youth and give individuals when they're trying to heal themselves, and kind of what are some tips you can give on people to leave those domestic violence situations?
Speak up. If you know that you're in a bad situation, you're really trying to get away, you have to think. Um, Sometimes you can play along around with that person. Just say, for instance, if that person always takes you to work, you can always have one particular day and be like, I have to drive the car, like I have to do this. Like, is there any way, like, that I could just use the car? Like, you have to make them feel good and make them feel like they're winning. And once they feel like they are winning, when you got your escape, your outlet, you go. You do not look back. That goes for your kids and all. You have to have an exit plan. Eventually, I didn't have one, actually. Um, I had to get to that point. Um, but always make sure that you have an exit plan. You can do signs if you're really close with somebody at work, especially like your store manager up here. Write a note, a text, or something so they can know what's going on, just in case something happens and they are aware. Um, so like for me right now, I have a coworker that I used to work with for. I was there for 14. Treasure came. And Treasure has been with Target now 4 years. Me and her became really, really close. So now what me and her do is, if we leave the house to do anything, something happens to us, we send each other our locations, what we're wearing. It would be like a FaceTime call so that we know who the last person saw us when we had on where we were, in case something has happened. But you always have to have the escape plan. You have to have that exit plan to get away. Whether the kids are at school and you pick them up early, don't go back. Make sure that you're not being followed. Make sure, I hate to say it, but sometimes the abuser family gets in your head really, really well. Try to make it that's like they're your friend. And always that's not playing. That's not what's going on. They try to make sure that you're their friend. That way you can't go. It's not always like that, but all my cases, that's how they were. They knew exactly what was going on. Of course I got blanks, but just like making sure that you know how to get away, find somebody that you really, really can trust. And I mean, when I say you really can trust, you have to be able to trust them to, like, hey, if I need to run or I need you to come pick me up, you're not gonna tell that person where I am. So like those are some tips that I will give people. Just make sure that you got that exit plan and just stop and think, you know, and play along with that, the abuser, if you have to. If that's your way that you know they can make that person feel good, you can get away and escape, by all means do that. That way you can get away. Whether you make them feel so comfortable and you lead them to being arrested and letting them know what's happening, I'd rather you do that than lead your life.
Awesome, awesome. And so, um, definitely appreciate you again coming on the Career Dominion podcast to, like I said, tell your story and shed light on domestic violence as well as mental health. To close out here, one thing I want you to do is, give us a little update on some of the positives that you gleaned from this experience and what you have going on with your nonprofit, and then also let the viewers know where they can find you.
I have a couple positive things. Like I said, I shed the light on Memphis now because for Memphis it really gets overlooked. They really don't pay attention to it. So with me having my nonprofit and people knowing exactly what I've been through now and where I'm trying to go, I have so many texts, inboxes at night, and it just was like, do you have resources or anything to do to help like females that's in bad situations and people that are close to them are really, really worried about them. And those are not positive because I know they feel comfortable with me saying, hey, she's still walking, she's still breathing. So it's still some hope for that next person. So even if it's in the middle of the night and I see it, or if I wake up and I see it, I always respond. Just like I've had over 100 something inboxes just asking how did you be? Like, what did you do? Like, how are you able to still walk around with a smile on your face and not let it bother me? It bothers me, but I don't let it show. But what I look like right now, you couldn't tell I've been through anything because I always keep smiling. So like those are my positives. I'm speaking out more to people. I'm doing a lot of more interviews on just speaking of my journey and speaking of the things that I've been through and how I'm able to stand. So for me, just speaking itself and telling my story is huge for me because I don't talk to nobody. I don't. I go to work and I go home. And that's it. Talk to my kids. I never like speaking because I've always been told, don't tell your story. You never let nobody know what you've been through. And I used to always ask, like, why? The first thing they say is they're gonna look at you as being vulnerable. They're gonna take advantage of you. And I was like, no, maybe not. Maybe you might can help someone else. And it was like, no, you're just gonna get pushed over like always. And for me, a positive on that, I stopped listening and I started talking. And the people who were telling me not to tell my story are the people that still standing and watching me and getting upset because I'm still telling my story. Some of the ones who kept telling me not to stand my story as well are pushing back. The more and more I talk, the more and more they get this. I got some positives, a lot. I have an upcoming book that's about to come. It tells about my life story and my journey. So I'm hoping that can help someone too. I normally have like my domestic violence brunches. I was normally doing them just for the shelters that I was at, going back to give to them. So for this year in October, it's October 19th at 12 o'clock in Memphis. I decided to do it as a community event. It's a brunch, so I'm selling tickets for that. Well, like vendors, if they want to come in and talk, I have 5 guest speakers as well from all different states to just come and speak on what they've been through and how they got out of their situations. Now I just want to shed light on the whole community and it's not just in those shelters because I feel like the community needs to see it. I feel like there's going to be some people that's going to speak out who would have never spoke out. And that's what I'm trying to get them to see now. You come together as a community, you can do a whole lot. That's my positives. I'm just trying to get it out there. So it's just not going to be just me. Like, takes a whole community with it. I'm just a little small person who just has a nonprofit trying to shed some light on the community, raise awareness, so we can help some kids, some young women to make better decisions before they get off into bad situations, using their best judgments before jumping into something.
Awesome, awesome. Like I said, appreciate you, Shamika Williams, for coming on the Korean Dominion podcast, the Korean Dominion Mental Health Series, episode 8. Again, hope everybody tunes in tomorrow, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. This episode will be published in live for the viewers. And so again, appreciate you coming on here to share your story. And like I said, I know it won't be the last time I will hear from you. Appreciate all the viewers listening as well. Hope you guys have a blessed, wonderful rest of your evening. And until next time on the Korea of Dominion.